Here guys, welcome to this Wholesome Half Hour Bonus episode. We don't have a full-length episode for you this week. We'll be back with a full-length episode next week. But this week we're talking about Kiwisaver, which is, I feel like, a lot of people don't know what Kiwisaver is, but I feel like the first interaction heaps of people have what Kiwisaver is. You get your first part-time job or whatever, you get sent all the paperwork, and one of them is this form for Kiwisaver.
Your K is 2.
Yeah.
Your K is 2.
I guess let's start the easiest question. What is
Kiwisaver? So disclaimer, anything we say in this episode, we're not financial advisors, so it's general advice. We don't want to get in trouble.
Go to a bank.
Go to a bank, talk to someone who can help you out fully. But Kiwisaver is, it's an investment retirement scheme. It's a way of putting some of your own money aside for when you go to retire. We obviously have superannuation, but if you're thinking 50 years into the future, that might not be around anymore. So it's a way of putting aside some money now and helping it grow in an investment market to make sure you have it, or to help you out when it comes to retirement. So it is voluntary, and it's a voluntary scheme, except for once you sign up to it, you're committed.
You can't get out, yeah.
So I'd say that's what Kiwisaver is in a nutshell.
Yeah, so think of it like, it's kind of like a savings account, but you can't touch it, and it's invested for we'll get into this, but it's invested for you and will generally grow at a higher rate than like a normal savings account.
Yeah, if you were to put the same amount of money from your Kiwisaver contributions into a savings account, the two would look very different at the end of 50 years.
The other thing with Kiwisaver is you cannot touch it. There are some exceptions. Maybe we'll get into those now. So generally speaking, I want to buy a new laptop. I can't.
You can't touch it.
Not possible.
Temptation can't take that money out of the Kiwisaver.
So obviously when you retire, you can access your Kiwisaver, but what else?
So there are some exceptions. So if you're going to buy your first home, that's when you can touch it. You can take it down to $3,000, needs to be your minimum balance, I believe. Anything above that you can draw down to pay for your first house if you want to do that. And that's pretty much the major thing you're going to see. So there are exceptions if you decide to immigrate over to another country. Then they'll let you obviously access that cash if you're moving away permanently, but otherwise it's locked and loaded.
You essentially think about it as you just, if we talk about contribution rates, how does that work?
Cool. So obviously to get Kiwisaver off the ground, you need to put some money aside. So the way that works...
Do you still get $1,000 when you sign up? Is that not a thing anymore?
I think it's 500 now. They change it every now and then. But essentially when you start, the government will throw you a kicker. So they'll chuck a bunch of money into your Kiwisaver account for saying, thanks for joining. So that's nice. But to put money into the account yourself, you need a contribution rate. So they've just recently changed legislation. So now you can put away anywhere from, I think it's 3, 4, 6, 8, or 10% of your wages. So you can go from 3% of your wages to 10%. If you're earning $100, for example, that's ranging from $3 to $10 a week. So it's not that much. It's a cup of coffee to a meal each week of your wages. If you've just got a small amount. And then there's a secondary element to that is if you're working, your employer is required to put a contribution of their own. So this is why it helps build up quick. So by default, employers will put away 3% to help out build your Kiwisaver.
So if I had $100 a week and I'm on a 3% rate, I'll get...
G'day, how's it going? Good to see you guys here. Oh, that's a good idea. How's it going?
It's going. How are you? Talking about Kiwisaver. Yeah, the kids had to leave.
Oh, all right. Good luck with that. Kiwisaver makes you do it. Also, MCAT walk through workbooks.
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah.
I'll give those as well.
MCAT integrated. So if you had $100 a week, $3 comes out, goes to Kiwisaver, you also your tax deducted, but your employer will also put aside $3. And that goes that's kind of free money for you.
Yeah, that's money that you wouldn't have gotten beforehand. Unless your contract says otherwise, the default scenario is they pay you on top of your wage. So that's essentially free money.
It's essentially free money. Cool. Not contribution rates. So I guess like this is the last one, and this is kind of the trickiest and most complicated thing. It's like most banks will have like various Kiwisaver options, anywhere from like 4 to 6 or more, and obviously you can go to different banks. What is that, and what does that mean?
Okay, cool. So the way it works, right? So Kiwisaver with your money and your employer's money plus the government. So there's a third contribution factor where the government will match part of your savings up to a certain amount. I think it's $500 now.
Yeah.
Each year you can get up to a further $500 from the government, matching how much you put away. So if you feel like you want that, you can work
You can also
job.
Manually just, if you want to throw
deposit.
$100 in your Kiwisaver, you can do that.
Yeah, and then the government will match a portion of that for you, up to that $500. So that's where your normal cash comes from. So the reason it's an investment scheme rather than just a savings scheme is that money is then, because you can't touch it, it's put into a portfolio. And that portfolio is sort of like share trading or market trading, that style. It's not just that. There's a whole bunch of things that invest in, but essentially they take your money and invest it for you.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the bigger returns on it. So it turns your $10 if you're getting, we'll use fake numbers because it's easy to do. If you had $100 in there and you're earning 10%, suddenly you've got 110 in there. If you didn't add any more money, the next year that would turn into 121 because you'd get $11 instead of 10.
Yeah.
So it's this concept of exponential growth if you have a standard rate. So if you had 10%, you wouldn't just be getting $10 every year. You'd get $11 and then you'd get $12. It would slowly add up over time. So banks take care of this for you, as well as there are other financial places. Choice is completely yours. But the way they do it is you pick how you want to invest. So you might be feeling sort of less risky. They have conservative ones that might...
So lower return, but lower chances of lower risk.
So the biggest thing about Kiwisaver to keep in mind is you can lose money in this scheme. So that's something to keep in mind, is if markets go bad, it will go down from time to time, but it'll also go up. So that happens with any investment.
Most banks will offer a scale of risk, usually
from
4, 5, 6 options, from like
really conservative to really risky, growth oriented, which might have a big number saying you're going to get 12% return, but that also works the other direction. So you might get a 12% loss. Whereas your conservative might have a 3% return, but maybe a 3% loss. There's a plan for everyone, and the best thing to do when it comes to setting a plan is to do the research yourself and find what's comfortable, where you want to put your money. Banks will also disclose where your money's going, and a new requirement into the next year or two will be to show you. So because we're dealing with investments and like the exponential thing I was talking about, a new requirement will be that Kiwisaver providers will need to show you what your account will look like at the end of when you hit 65 or whatever the retirement age will be. So you can actually see how it grows.
There's, if you're deciding what fund to get, there's a lot of if you do your reading, do your research, there's a lot of I guess you can call it literature, online, and also banks will
give you the documents, but they won't give you any advice.
But they'll point you in the right direction.
They'll point you who to go to if you want to speak to someone specifically about it. But the biggest thing about Kiwisaver is, for the most part, it's a good idea. Obviously, there might be some reasons why you don't want to have it. You might think you can put your money somewhere else that will be more effective. But for the most part, it's designed to help out people who don't think about investment as a way of generating money.
Generally, you can look at it as like your savings taken out, the government is essentially making you save, but it's your money. It's taken from you, it's your money, it's looked after for you, and when you retire, you will have money, or when you go to buy your first house, you'll have some money to top up your deposit.
Rather than relying on regular savings.
You need a 20% deposit to
love
buy
equity
house.
Purchases. I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's a fun way of saving. It can be fun if you like looking at investment plans. It's low maintenance. It's, government supports it, so it's not like some risky scam side deal.
It's literally endorsed by the government.
The other biggest thing, I suppose, that concerns people with Kiwisaver is where the money is getting invested. So if you're cautious about things like maybe weapons or nuclear energy or non-environmental companies, if you have any preferences to where money goes, all providers need to disclose where they invest cash in their different schemes. So you can do a lot of research to see if you are investing in
I know every year there's like a stuff article being like, this bank's Kiwisaver scheme invested in this nuclear bombs company, or like this weapons company. Very interesting.
So you don't need to go in blind. Everything's available for you. It's very open. It's just doing the research is the tedious part.
Awesome. So it's almost everything you need to know about Kiwisaver *? But hopefully that's a good introduction, and hopefully that points you in the right direction. Thanks so much for watching. If you are a level 1 student, MCAT is coming up. We have a workbook, guide, stuff and all of that. We've got a promo code and where to buy those right here.
Buy them, they're good resources.
Very good, great resources. I actually learned a lot like making the MCAT stuff, but also. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.